The opinions expressed in the following program are not necessarily those of Eastlink TV, its sponsors, or partners.
Hi there, I'm Gloria McCluskey, and you're watching Destination Dartmouth. My destination this morning is the Greater Burnside Business Park, and my guest is Derek Brett, who's the chairman of the Greater Burnside Business Association. Hi Derek, thank you very much for being here with me this morning. You have a very busy law practice here, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come talk to me. And we're situated in this beautiful Burnside Park, and that's what we're going to be talking about this morning. And Derek, you are chair of the Greater Burnside Business Commission. Is it commission?
It's association.
Association. So let's start there.
Yes, sure.
Okay. How long have you been there?
I've been with GBBA. I'm a baby for GBBA. 2 years, 2.5 years with GBBA, and I took over as its chair just over a year ago.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you weren't there long before you became chair.
I became vice chair, and then they needed a chair, and I figured, based upon my previous experience on numerous committees, organizations, that I could fill the role, and so
Good.
That's what happens.
So what's happening there now? Tell me all about it.
Well, there's a lot going on. As we know, there have been two really big issues that we've been focusing on as GBBA. We represent all the businesses of Burnside. There are over 1,800 here in Burnside. And so the big ticket items, ones that, as you know, have been sitting around for a long time, the big one, of course, is the Burnside Expressway.
Right.
So we've been focusing on that. We've been trying to interact with the provincial players, the Department of Transportation, to try to finally get the project that was first announced back in 1989, Gloria, actually going. And now we feel, with a recent announcement over the past few months by then Transportation Minister McClellan, that we're finally going to be able to have the Burnside Expressway break ground, probably up at Duke Street, up Bedford Way, and end up coming right here into the park.
Through Anderson Lake.
Through Anderson Lake, and
they're going to have to test that for all the old ammunition that might be in through there.
Well, we have the ordnance concerns, but I think the ordnance concerns are virtually abated at this point, as well as the serious environmental concerns have also now been abated.
There was an explosion at that magazine in the 1940s.
Was it 45, I believe, or 46?
I was in it.
You were in it?
I was in the explosion. I was living on Howe Street in Dartmouth, visiting my sister, and the window was open. I sat in the chair, and it blew me right out on the floor.
Oh, my.
And we had to move down to the Eastern Passage area for the night.
Geez, I've heard about some of the impact, and I heard that ordnance, of course, had been scattered everywhere.
Everywhere. So that's why up near Anderson Lake, part of that land is owned by the federal government.
Right, exactly.
And up there's a lot of that ammunition buried, I guess.
Well, it's a serious concern, but again, we come back to it
and
we say that
we can deal with it.
25, 28 years, hopefully they've examined the area where the expressway would be laid to allow for any possible ordnance to be removed.
Well, we had the same problem, Derek, with the 107 bypass. Mm-hmm. We needed that. The province had no money. So the city said, we will lend you the money, City of Dartmouth, I was the mayor at the time, we will lend you the money to put that expressway through. And that's what we did, and that's how the expressway got there. But unfortunately, after amalgamation, this park was neglected for 10 years.
Yeah.
All the concentration was on the Bayers Park,
right,
which is, as we all know, not the best park.
Well, it's certainly not Burnside.
No, but it's not easy to get around, and it's not laid out like Burnside is.
Well, you know that even though I'm head of the GBBA, I don't live anywhere. I don't live in Dartmouth, but I can tell you I live equidistant.
Yeah.
And when we choose to go anywhere, we have choices because a lot of the same businesses, the chains are in both Dartmouth Crossing and in Bears Lake, and we choose the Dartmouth crossing ones because it's just so much easier to navigate.
So much easier.
So much easier, and it's a pleasure. And what we find out as we go, because we've only been here, my family and I, for 5 years, what we find out is that there's so much more to offer in Burnside than whatever anybody who doesn't come into Burnside daily would expect. I mean, the boon that we have here, whether it's coming down to the four-pad that's about to be finished, or whether we're talking about the new changes to Dartmouth Crossing.
And the great new hotel that's going up in Dartmouth Crossing.
The great new hotel that's going to be going up in Dartmouth Crossing, to the refurbishing just down the street here, the Ramada, making it into a Delta. The Best Western is going to be going through its own refurbishment process. And so we have so much going on here.
So it's the place to come, and
It
coming
really
in the
is.
highway or wherever, it's so easy to get here.
It is. It is coming in on the 102. It's very easy. Once we have Burnside Expressway done, it's going to be even easier. If you're thinking about the weekend, coming over Magazine Hill is certainly not an imposition.
When we talked about Burnside Express, Dexter wanted to do it, and they wanted to have a toll. And I was not against the toll, because I thought if people don't want to pay the toll, they can always take the Magazine Hill.
Well, that was my mentality, because when it came down to these recent public consultations where we were a stakeholder in this,
Right.
GBBA firmly put itself down as saying, we need these roads.
Oh,
We need
you
these.
do.
We need Burnside Expressway. We needed the other roads that were being proposed throughout. This was the time to get it done because of the federal matching dollars.
Right.
And if it took having a toll, whether there was a sunset date or not, because we're going to become accustomed to paying the toll, then
And
so
coming
be
from
it.
USA, you know how common tolls are down
I
there.
come from Florida. We pay tolls on everything. You know, it's, you know what, between having to drive on the local corridors and be in bumper to bumper traffic and taking those express roads with the tolls, there's no comparison. Pay the bucks, and if
The
you can't,
time you save.
that's right. And you know what? Again, I understand how some people won't be able to, but again, the amount of traffic that's diverted off of the main roads
Yes.
makes it so much easier for those who don't want to pay tolls or can't pay tolls
Right.
to then come in. It seemed to make so much sense to us. And again, when we were looking at the big scheme that was behind this, where there were going to be there were going to be new segments of the 103, the 101, the 104. So we saw what the current government had planned, and we said, okay, we know why Burnside Expressway was lumped in with this, because we weren't expected to be lumped in with this. We were supposed to be a completely separate project through provincial funding. So once some corridor up near Antigonish was finished, we were finally promised not to be number one. And then all of a sudden, quite unexpectedly, we're taken off and we're put in with all these other projects.
Right.
But there was method to the madness. And so the method to the madness was, we're ready. Burnside Expressway is, in theory, practically shovel ready. And so we were big advocates for the entire package. We wanted as much as possible, not just what we ended up with, the scaled down package, which fortunately, of course, included Burnside Expressway.
Well, Derek, we're going to take a break.
Okay.
And we'll be back. You're watching Destination Dartmouth. I'm here with Derek Breck, and we'll be back in a minute. I'm back with Destination Dartmouth and my guest, Derek Breck. So, Derek, you don't have any idea when this highway will be started.
We're going to remain cautiously optimistic that it's going to be by the end of the second quarter in 2018. That they'll break ground up at Duke Street. And when it comes around to here, I can't say. I'm hoping that everything will be in place by the end of 2020. We'll see.
Yes. What else should be happening in Burnside?
Well, we've had this big Metro Transit issue arising at brouhaha, and we've been partnering with a lot of the Dartmouth-based business development,
the
business improvement districts, including Main Street.
Yeah, Main Street. Yeah.
And so we've had issues, because one problem that we find in Burnside, speaking for Burnside
It's getting
employees,
there to work.
is getting there to work, where you shouldn't have to be able to come in from, Preston, Cherrybrook, Cole Harbor way, and it shouldn't take you 90 minutes. And it's a huge deterrent to these local employers to have to hire people who are reliant upon mass transit.
It's very sad.
It's really bad.
It's not open to everybody.
It's not open to everybody, and until recently, there's now a temporary line running up Main Street, but Main Street really is the corridor to come in from those points out.
It is.
And there's not even a permanent
No, didn't
route
have a bus
from
for
Main Street.
years.
No, and they still don't. And you find that you have NSCC Akerley right there.
Right.
You find that you have a bunch of medical offices. It really is the medical hub for this part of the harbor, and yet you don't have a bus route that actually travels through Main Street.
And how many people do we have working up here now? Around 18,000.
I would say 18,000 is a good estimate.
A few years ago, it was 15,000.
Right.
And we've had a lot of development. And Dartmouth Crossing, the bus was leaving before the stores closed.
Right.
And I screamed about that when I was on
I know.
council, to get that changed.
And it has changed. Now, is it optimal? Probably not just yet. We've had issues, and fortunately, you know, Mayor Savage has been seemingly receptive to this, and certainly our councillor Tony Mancini has been receptive to it. But we even questioned having their new bus hub right there on the corner of Wright and Windmill, because we say to ourselves, why do you need that there? If you go up just the street, there's already a bus hub. Why are you putting it there? And is that not going to further clutter that already heavy intersection through Burnside? And I said, I don't understand the rhyme or reason for something like that.
I questioned that location too. I went to meetings regarding it, and I questioned it because you'd think it would be in the park.
You'd think that if you're going to put it anywhere, that it would be somewhere within the park itself. We still, obviously, when you recognize that two of the major corridors through the park are Akerley and Wright, that can be troubling a lot of the time, especially if there's an accident. Wright could be backed up in perpetuity.
Yes.
Same thing certainly for Akerley.
Oh, yes.
And again, hopefully, once we get Burnside Expressway in, of course, it'll reroute some of that traffic out and away.
The
So
big trucks will probably take that route a lot of the times.
we think that the big trucks will start to rely upon that route.
Yeah,
Thank
much
goodness.
easier for them.
Yeah.
Will they go? Can they go that way to the airport too, or would they just go out through?
My understanding is that they should be able to go out to the airport as well, because ultimately that connector will bring it up to 4C on the 102. So that might be another option. Now, of course, taking the 107 out is, of course, you just go straight out.
Easy, yeah. It's kind of turny though.
It is
Kind
very
of twisty. Kind of hard for a big truck.
It can be, and if you're just a motorist in your car, it can be a little freaky driving next to those trucks. I know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yes, but we have so many great things now coming up with both with GBBA and with Burnside, and we're really excited
So
about
let's
these
talk
changes.
about GDB,
Sure.
Greater
Burnside Business
GBB.
Association. We're celebrating our 15-year anniversary,
Very good.
and we have a committed board. It's a completely volunteer board.
Yes, they always are.
We're reliant effectively just upon the dues that are paid by our members. And our members are not the 18,000 businesses in Burnside. They're not required to pay into us. So we have a good number of businesses that pay into us, but we really rely on a shoestring budget in order to make this happen.
Could you start something like the Downtown Business Commission, the Main Street? Could you start a Burnside Business Commission where you get an allocation of funds from all the businesses?
In theory, yes. In practice, it's not. I don't think it's going to happen. And there are a couple of reasons why. It's not as if Burnside is so unique.
It is.
Number one, and you would think that this would be the logical place, but to be able to get the cohesion to actually go forth and put that through is challenging. Number one, for a volunteer association, but number two, considering who is here in the park and their willingness to be able to accept some type of.
And the big thing is, what are they
tax.
going to get out of it? That's the biggest thing.
Well, the big property holders, the big landholders, are not going to want to see a certain percentage of a certain cent, a tax, even though it's minimal. And certainly the smaller businesses wouldn't have the same tax hit and probably would benefit more demonstrably so. But I think the political dynamics of the park aren't going to allow for us to vie for a BID. We spoke about it for some months over the past year, because I was high on it, because when you see the main streets of the downtown Dartmouths, then you get excited about the potential to have an executive director, about to have a committed staff, a real budget. You know, we have a part-time assistant, and we have the willingness, the efforts, the zealousness of our board members to really fuel this entire thing. And we have a couple of big events that we're trying to put together for this year, of course.
We had a Burnside Industrial Commission up here when the park was first opened, and we had counselors, and we had business people from the park. We had a member of the chamber, and we had staff. And we would deal with all the businesses in the park. We would decide what the landscaping should be, and so on and so forth. And it worked well.
I've heard that it was very, very effective.
But when amalgamation came along, that was the end of the.
That was the end of it.
That was the end of the commission.
See, we've tried to build these partnerships, these strategic partnerships, whether it's with the Chamber of Commerce or with the Halifax Partnership, or you know, we're really trying to build on relationships with the IWK Foundation or with the BIDs that I already mentioned. That's how we gain greater empowerment with the Metro Transit issues. We not only had partnerships with organizations on this side of the harbor, but we were actually building out, because there were also obvious concerns for some of the BIDs on the other side of the harbor.
Sackville too.
Sackville, we actually had a relationship building. You know, it's funny. I live in Bedford. I didn't get to contact the Bedford BID, but the Sackville BID we had contacts with.
I didn't know Bedford had one.
Bedford actually has a very small one on that strip, as you go between Dartmouth Road and Hammonds Plains Road.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up now for a short break, Derek. And you're watching Destination Dartmouth. I'm here with Derek Bruck, and we'll be back in a minute. Hi, I'm back with Destination Dartmouth here in the best park east of Montreal, and my guest is Derek Bruck, who is chair of the Greater Burnside Business Association. Derek, there's been a lot of new businesses in the park.
There have been a lot of new businesses in the park, and we're encouraged by the nature of the new businesses opening. You know, traditionally Burnside was about more of an industrial flavor to it.
It was.
But it's become so much more multifaceted with the retail that's now establishing itself, especially, of course, in Dartmouth Crossing. But you go in and you look specifically at the businesses that go in, and what you find is technological, maritime, and green businesses. We're talking about green energies, things like carbon cure, for instance, which is huge.
And the recycling of those the lights.
The LEDs. Yeah. Also, we have a business here to recycle the K-cups for those Keurig cups.
Oh, do we? Because they add so much to the
landfill.
Waste,
yeah, and it's unfortunate. We all like the convenience, but the convenience is not good for the earth. And what we're trying to do here, ultimately, because we see this evolution, we're going to have our industrial capacity like we've had for several decades. We understand that, but the evolution away from traditional forms of industry is now finally coming, where we're seeing green industry, eco-sensitive industry. We've had this group out that came out last year from Malmö, Sweden. I've always held out Malmö as being a model for us, because the dynamics there, being right on the water, it seems so very much like Halifax, Dartmouth, and so. It was encouraging, because what happened in Malmö was their entire shipbuilding industry collapsed a few years back.
I remember hearing that.
And so they rebranded themselves as being this eco-enterprise hub. And they came here, and of course they came here because this was one of the things that they were looking for, because we can do the exact same thing right here, and we're now proving that we can do it here. And so we've got the drive, we've got the governmental support, if need be. We've got all these things happening, and it's really effectively, if you have to look at any cornerstone for this activity, It's not happening. It's not happening in Bears Lake. It's not happening in Bedford or Halifax. It's happening right here in Burnside.
In Dartmouth.
Well, in Dartmouth, and if you look, we have the space to let it happen. We have this. Where else are you going to find this nice little balance where we're sitting here in this adjacent to this nice park with this beautiful walking trail with the lakes, and we have everything going here. We have the new sidewalk structure, especially if you remember the past couple of years on Acreley, where we don't have to worry about how we get from point A to point B. It's going to be much safer for pedestrians to be able to get around for these employees of Burnside to get around.
Like to walk now. They
really
like
do.
to get out on their lunch hour and walk.
Yes, and look where we are right now. This is a perfect place to do it. We have an eco park, which once we get it going again, and I think you know where it is, Gloria. Once we get that eco park up and running again, which is another project that GBBA is focusing on, and Mayor Savage has seemed receptive about, and Councilor Mancini has been receptive of, then can you imagine having an eco park right here in what has been considered a traditionally industrial area?
Well, we do have Ben McCrae, who was very strong about keeping the business park. You know, he didn't want any industrial or you know, that was to be a business park. And we did draw the boundary there and keep it. But recently I met with somebody who talked about putting some residential across from the footpath.
Well, GBBA has been very careful about what it's supported. In fact, we stood against plans not so long ago against adjacent to Dartmouth Crossing, putting it in. Now they are putting it in a much more sensible area, which I think is behind the Home Depot Walmart area. So there is going to finally be some type of residential housing, which surprised me. But again,
I was very much against rezoning that land up where the IKEA is now, up in that area. In fact, I was the lone dissenter and it all came around. Then it came around that we brought it back to where it should have remained. Yeah. We need the land up here.
We do.
We always call this park the goose that laid the golden egg. When we were Dartmouth, that's how we referred to the Burnside.
We provide so much tax benefit to the entire region.
Oh, it must be 30% now.
And oftentimes, yes, we feel like we're just like the rest of Dartmouth, the ugly stepsister for the rest of the area. Right. And so when are we? You know, it's not easy because aside from those residences going in, there is no residential community in here.
Well, and I don't know, for some reasons politicians think of areas like this as nobody votes there.
It's a cash cow. That's all they think
and
about.
And nobody votes there.
Right.
I mean, these people all vote. They all live in neighborhoods around, and you have to think of what it does for this municipality.
Huge. Without Burnside, I don't know what the heck we would be doing right now. All right, you could have your Irving shipbuilding contracts, and it means squat if you don't have Burnside. Oh. Burnside is it. Burnside's going to be here. The Irvings are going to build their ships, and then we don't know whether or not there's ever going to be another contract coming.
We don't know.
But Burnside will be here, and the businesses of Burnside will be here, and the people who rely on Burnside for employment will be here. Yeah. And hopefully there will be more people who are going to be coming out from Eastern Passage and have a much easier time than the 90-minute commute who will be here and benefit here. Right, and from the Eastern Shore.
So I think that's one of the big things holding employment being available to everybody is the transit system.
The employers want this. In fact, I spoke to a couple of potential employers who were going to relocate here to the park, and they said we didn't. And I asked them why, and they said we can't get our employees in because the mass transit system just doesn't accommodate it just yet. And so we, as GBBA, we continue to raise our voices. We have to raise our voices. We have to be bold.
You have to be stronger than you bend.
If we don't raise our voices, then it will never get done.
You have to be stronger than you bend.
That's right.
You have to be more vocal. You have to have more support.
That's right.
And you have to push it even harder.
And you know what? I mean, as much as I love the Canadian way, because I came from the United States, it requires a little bit of, I think, a little bit of American attitude. Not Donald Trump attitude, but American attitude to get people to sit up and pay attention. And take notice. You've done it throughout your long distinguished career. Okay? It's that ethic is not yet really here with a lot of people.
No. And since amalgamation, things have really changed. You know, this was our park, and we took great pride in what we had, and really valued what we got from the park. So Derek,
We'll bring it back.
We'll bring it back. Derek, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to
I
be here
enjoyed it,
today.
Gloria. Thank you so much.
It's been great. Thank you. Thank you for watching Destination Dartmouth. We've been here this morning in the Great Burnside Business Park, and my guest has been Derek Brecht, who is the chair of the Greater Burnside Business Association. Come back next week when I will have another destination.